This game versus the Bears is a perfect example of why I always say living or dying by what you think is going to be a win or loss on the schedule at the beginning of the season is always a fruitless endeavor. And the reason that is because football is a sport that's highly susceptible to a bunch of different variables that could greatly change the outcome of a season for a team. You might play a team at a good time. You might play a team when they don't have their starting quarterback. You might play a team when it's cold and that favors you, or you play a team that you should beat when it's cold and that favors the other team. There's a number of other factors other than who you think is better pound for pound on the schedule that matter for why a team would win or lose. And I don't think we account for that when we play schedule games in the offseason. Now, this game versus the Bears is interesting. First, let's talk about the weather conditions. It's going to be cold. Now, I saw somebody put up minus 32 feels like conditions. It's not going to be that cold, right? If it were that cold, they would have to move the game somewhere else or something like that, because minus 32 is ridiculous. What it is going to be is going to feel like anywhere from 0 to minus 5 degrees. So my bad, anywhere from minus 5 degrees to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 100% positively cold. It's real cold. Now, I don't know much about Soldiers Field. I can search up a couple of things right now. My gut tells me they don't have a natural grass field, but let me look at that real quick. Before I continue on here, because if they have a turf field, that's gonna suck, brother. That's gonna suck. Okay, they're on Bermuda grass, which is a little better, right? So if you don't know, when turf gets cold, turf gets really, really hard because it's rubber underneath the ground there, and clay. So that's gonna get even harder. Natural grass, you can do a little bit more with it. I think you can heat both turf and natural grass, even though I think turf is a little bit harder to heat because you're using a lot of plastics. Don't quote me on any of this, but I think from what I can tell by hearing former players talk, the turf in the cold is a problem. Natural grass in the cold, it still sucks. If you've ever fallen on the ground in Cleveland in the wintertime, you know what that feels like. It's not very fun, but it's much more pleasant than turf. So at least it's natural grass. It looks like they just switched to grass within the last 3 years. Yeah, they were on Kentucky bluegrass, and then they switched to Bermuda grass. So maybe that makes a difference. Maybe they could heat underneath the field, so it's not going to be too miserable there. We'll see. But it's just going to be cold. It's not going to snow. It's not supposed to rain. The wind chill is not going to be excessive. It's just going to be really, really cold. And if you're asking me how that's going to affect the actual game, I don't know how much it's going to affect the actual game itself, right? They got heaters on the sideline. They got heaters on the field. If you're not dealing with extra conditions and you're playing constantly like an offensive lineman, quarterback, or running back would, there's not going to be very many opportunities for you to get cold. So I think that they'll be okay-ish, right? They should be able to play whatever game plan they want to play. Obviously, it's not going to be fun, right? You might see more drops from wide receivers because that football becomes a brick in weather conditions such as this, and it might be harder to get some passing offense off, but that's the weather conditions. It's going to be cold, about 0 degrees to minus 5. The Bears already specialize in turnovers, right? So if you're the Browns, you want to take extra care of the ball. Again, cold football can be a loose football, and lead to fumbles and turnovers, interceptions, tip balls, things like that. So you got to take care of the football this week. But that's the conditions. It's going to be about anywhere from feeling like a minus 5 to 0 degrees. Actual weather at kickoff is projected to be about 2 degrees, and it's going to get as warm as a nice toasty 7 degrees in there. So going to be cold. Definitely going to be cold. Because it's cold, I think that's that's going to affect the injury report, right? If you had somebody who's on the fence and then you're going into bad weather conditions, you're more than likely to mark that player is out, especially if they're out for a concussion or something related. Now, I don't think Cedric Tillman, who looked like he was out for a concussion, is out for a concussion. I think it's shoulder, technically, on the report. So he might play. But you notice Jack Conklin, who's coming back from a concussion, he's out already, right? Aiden Huntington, I believe that's a concussion as well, out. They're not going to play with anybody with a concussion, right? Like if you have a concussion or concussion-like symptoms, in the last few weeks and you haven't played already, you're probably going to be out because it's going to be cold. The ground's going to be hard. It's just ripe conditions for a concussion. So, yeah, the Browns are going to keep some guys out this week. Wyatt Teller, we'll put up the list here. Joe Bitonio, Malachi Corley, Mason Graham, Cedric Tillman, Zach Zinter, all questionable. I expect everybody but maybe Cedric and maybe Malachi to not play. I don't know if Zach's going to be active, but I think Zach will play. Mason is going to play. I think Joe's going to play. As far as the guys who are out, we have Jack Conklin, Aiden Huntington, David Njoku, Dylan Sampson, who I have to double check here to make sure that Dylan is on the roster for a concussion, because I do believe he's out with a concussion, but I'll double check that in just a minute here. But that is what the Browns injury report is. Obviously, they aren't very healthy. I know a lot of people are going to jump to, oh, they're tanking. That's why. Hold on. I got the statuses here real quick. So Joe, questionable with the knee. Jack, concussion. He's not going to play. Malachi Corley, if it's a concussion, he's probably not going to play. Ribs, Mason Graham, questionable. He's going to play. He played with it last week. Quad injury for Aiden Huntington. He's out. Knee injury for David Njoku. He's out. Dylan Sampson, calf and hand, so not concussion. Wyatt Teller, calf, and Denzel Ward, calf injury. He's not going to play. And Deshaun Watson, obviously not playing. He has about 7 more days to be active before he has to go back on PUP. So that's the Browns status. I know whenever you see this, people immediately jump to, oh, the Browns are tanking. They're trying to take players out on purpose. This is just what an injury report looks like at this point in the season for a team that runs the ball as much as the Browns. I mean, we're looking at Detroit right now. They got 1 million people on their injury report. They're obviously not tanking. You got the Colts with 4 people out, 1 million people on their injury report. They're obviously not tanking. I mean, this is the injury report of the Arizona Cardinals right now, right? And they don't even play in cold weather. But they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, is that 9 people? 9 people out, 5 more people with questionable statuses. This is what football does, right? Seahawks have 2 people out, 3 people questionable. This is what an injury report just looks like at the end of the year. It's easy to jump to it's tanking, but it's not. It's usually just you have a bunch of guys hurt because that's just where you are at the end of the season. And that's just how things kind of naturally flow towards the end of the season. So that's the injury status part of it. Obviously for the Browns, right, some big names on that injury list, if we could pull it up again. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy week for the Browns to win this game, and it will be a tough game to win with all of these injuries. I'm trying to pull up the injury report again here. But yeah, this is what, if you're looking at the list, Jack Conklin, who's been out for a while, you've dealt with that. And then who else? You're losing depth on the defensive line with Aiden Huntington, which hurt you last week. David Njoku being out's not really that big of a deal because David Njoku hasn't helped you in a while, but Dylan Sampson being out is probably a big deal, right? Like you don't really have a backup running back to take up what he's done. And I think Jerome Ford is out for the season as well. So we're going to see some guys who haven't really gotten a lot of snaps play in place of Dylan Sampson. With David, you're like, yeah, Harold Fainer can take care of most of what David was doing. Wyatt Teller calf, he was out last week. It shouldn't really be that big of a deal this week. Denzel Ward being out, though, that's a big deal. The Bears have some wide receivers on that roster. Tyson Campbell is really nice when he's your second corner, but when he's your best corner, there starts to become problems there. So yeah, that Denzel Ward injury is actually huge. Deshaun Watson injury is meaningless. Zach Zinter. If we're looking at the Bears, I think they're getting their cornerback, not Kyler Gordon, but the other corner that they had on the injury report. They're getting him back. But Kyler Gordon going to be out and Homer going to be out, but really that's not really a problem for them. So they're actually coming into this game relatively healthy, which is good for them. They have a tough stretch coming up for the last few weeks of the season. So that's where the Browns are injury report wise. Obviously, they're in a tough spot. We'll continue to talk about this game and preview this game in just a second. But first, I got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. So that is the table set for the game. It's going to be cold. The Browns are going to be out 1, 2, 3. Really, David Njoku and Dylan Sampson are the new injuries, right? But you're going to be out, guys. It's going to be a tough win for the Browns. If you're the Browns and you want to win, you got to take care of the football. And you got to just play. You got to force Caleb Williams into being more turnover prone. And if you want to do that, then you're going to have to get up early. So you're going to need a quick offensive performance or a hot offensive performance to start. The Browns can get up early, force Caleb Williams to kind of throw the ball, try to play more hero ball. That can turn into turnovers. Then they could withstand a couple of blows. They could maybe win this game. But it's going to be a pretty uphill battle. I don't think the Bears are an unbeatable team. Like, the Bears are a really good team, but they're not unbeatable this year. I think you can get to them. I think it takes being able to get a lead early on the Bears in order for that to happen. We'll see if that's going to be possible. We'll see what they're able to put up offensively. If you're looking at this from a Browns draft perspective, then there's really not much to pay attention to this week, right? Maybe the Raiders, you want to see if the Raiders can win a game going forward, because if you're somebody who wants the number 1 overall pick, the Raiders are probably the biggest obstacle in your way currently. But yeah, it's the same stuff as previous weeks. I don't think any of the teams ahead of the Browns in the draft order are likely to win this week. So unless there's an upset, I don't think much of the draft order changes. Or if the Browns win and upset the Bears, then maybe the draft order changes for the Browns. And that would be good for people who want to keep Shador on as the starters. There's a lot of different ways this thing could break out. We're still in the middle part of December. The draft is a long ways away, and we're about 3-4 weeks away from knowing what the draft order is going to be anyways. So this week, I don't expect much to be there as far as the draft conversation, unless something unexpected happens on Sunday. But that's kind of the table set for this game. It's going to be a tough game. We'll talk about what Shador needs to do to kind of just continue to show progress on Sunday. But what I wanted to do with this video is kind of set the table, talk about what's going on, where the team is at, what could happen, what could not happen, what's positive, what's negative. Let me know in your thoughts what you think should happen with this team in this game in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.